Hello, everybody. Thank you for watching today. Today, I'm joined by Mia Pinero, who has a new album, Growing Up, coming out on March 15th. Hello. Thank you for
Hi,
joining.
thank
Can
you
you
for having
first
me.
please introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about Growing Up, the album?
I'm Mia Pinero. I'm from Racine, Wisconsin, and Growing Up was made January through March 2021, so in the middle of, pandemic time, and
Yeah.
it was done just like this over Zoom. And I was actually in a production of West Side Story on Broadway with Ivo Van Hove as the director, and when COVID happened and the
Yeah.
Broadway theater shut down, I thought, let me go back home and take this time with my family. And what I thought was going to be 2 months turned into almost a year and a half. And being in my hometown obviously sparked a lot. I was around where I used to go to school. I saw the house I used to grow up at, and that whole journey with also having a lot of time on my
Mhm.
hands. Really, this album came out of that time, and it's not as much talking about growing up and being little. It's the
Yeah.
growing up that we do now, of when we reconnect and look at our childhood through a different lens and start to better understand it and seek truth through it. So anyway, January 2021, I had these songs in my head kind of around, as what I was experiencing, and they all really resonated with me. And I'd always wanted to do an album. So I thought, how do we do that? Like,
Yeah.
let's try. What do we need to do?
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess, like you say, obviously during the pandemic, do you think the kind of pandemic changed kind of how you approached doing the album? Do you think?
Oh, 100%. Like I said, it's something I saw. It's something that was always on I wanted to accomplish this someday. I want to do this. And it was interesting because I couldn't have a lot of musicians on it.
Yeah.
I was self-producing it. I had a very limited budget, and I wanted to keep it that way. I thought, I don't want this album because someday, trust me, I want the big orchestra and the gown
Yeah.
and the
No.
producers. And I thought, but this is about my story. I don't want to record this in New York. I don't want a music director. I want it just me and I call him a unicorn of a human, Alex Thompson, who did the piano, the arrangements, and we built it together over Zoom. And I think it's a very stripped down arrangements of a lot of these beautiful songs. And I think it would have definitely been a very different album. But I'm really proud that it's authentic and vulnerable and very intimate because of some of the restraints that we had, of course, doing it, like I said, over Zoom and with just piano and vocals, which we recorded separately, actually.
Yeah.
Fun fact.
Yeah. And kind of, I guess that makes it almost more personal, I suppose, like the fact that you have to do it that way. Kind of, it's more your story, I suppose, kind of more heart in it, I suppose, like you say, than if you had like a massive orchestra, I suppose.
Absolutely. And it was something that, because obviously doing theater, you can maybe watch an archival video, but
Yeah.
once you perform, it's gone. And that's one of the most beautiful things about theater. But what felt really special about making this recording is it was almost like putting that moment and preserving it forever, and
Yeah.
my voice of that time and my realizations. And I hadn't been singing 8 shows a week and
Yeah.
I was really removed from all of that, and I could really connect. So it definitely has a piece of my heart and soul in it, and yeah, part of it.
How easy or difficult is it to kind of curate the track list? Is it?
So I have a running list of songs just so I remember that just really hit me. And
Yeah.
it's a pretty long list. And um, when I was kind of thinking, what if I explored making an album? At first, I it was going to be a totally different concept.
Yeah.
And as I was, I really can't explain it. It's like these songs that I've included kind of just came. They were all very relevant for me at the moment. It's like I had to have them together,
Yeah.
and I didn't know how they would sound together because we have anything from Donald Glover, Stephen Sondheim, Rodgers and Hart, Lerner and Lowe, Chance the Rapper. Like
Yeah.
it's got a lot of different types of songs. But again, that's Alex Thompson did such an incredible job arranging them to all sound like, a cohesive project. And yeah, so I can't really explain. It just felt like they belonged in this piece. And I had had other ideas of would I also have this song and it was like, no, that doesn't feel right for this project. So I think it just had been probably over many years that each of these songs really hit me at different times. And I needed all of them.
Yeah. One of the perks of obviously doing what I do is I've heard the album already and it's brilliant. So I will say that.
Yeah.
But I'm going to ask the impossible question of do you have a favorite track from the album? Mine is All I've Ever Known, if you wanted to know. But
Oh, so a little bit about that song, just because you said that was your favorite.
yeah.
I what I think is so special, I recorded that in 2021 in was that February or March, and my fiance proposed in May, and he said that song was playing in his head like the whole
Yeah.
like the whole time leading up.
Yeah.
And I got to see Hadestown this year and just wept, and it's one of the best things I've ever seen. Favorite song is impossible to,
Yeah.
because like I said, each of these, it's like picking a favorite child. And I do
Cool.
feel like it would change because when we first started working on it, Stand Tall, which is the first track on the album, we do a very different version. So I was like, oh, this is really
Mhm.
cool. And
Yeah.
um, but as we worked through the album, the song that really hit me over and over and still does as I've grown accustomed to her face, because that song's about my mom.
Yeah.
And part of the album that's special about it is when I hadn't been home in 9 months, and at least I think when I was doing West Side Story. And when I went home for the pandemic, I was staying with my mom, who I hadn't gotten to live with for that amount of time since I was 9 years old.
Yeah.
So that was obviously a very special and intense kind of period of time. And it's funny because she literally whistles night and noon.
Yeah.
and and she is the time that we got together, I'll forever be grateful for. I don't even have the words. So I think listening to that one, of
Yeah.
course, when Henry Higgins sings it, it has a very
Yeah.
different feeling to it. And I did have to change some of the lyrics to match my story with it. But yeah, I think I'll have to say that one just by a small margin.
Okay. I won't force you. I won't force you. What would you say you want people to take away from listening to the album?
I I think that when we think about growing up, and it can be we have of course we all have a past, we all have a childhood, and we all have a present. And as we better understand all of those pieces that make us who we are, I think that is how we continue to grow. When I think of growing up, I think of growing forward, growing
Yeah.
up, like, and we are going to be doing that the rest of our lives. And it's encouraging people to look at themselves and kind of, for us to all better understand who we are. And
Yeah.
can be a scary thing. It can be an exciting thing, an empowering thing, and that you're not alone. That we all are forever going to be exploring what makes us who we are and finding our truths. And they always say you're don't be a second rate version of someone else, be a first rate version of you. And how can we do that unless we can understand who we are and where we've come from? So I think that I want to encourage people to take that journey, continue on that journey, and that I'm there with you. And
Yeah.
I'm and understanding that transitional moments are can be challenging, but the most rewarding and where the most amount of growth is. Which just a little bit, I wanted to mention that. So the album cover is me sitting on the bank of my childhood pond. And something I was really adamant about with the photographer was I want this taken in the because March in Wisconsin is everything is dead and
Yeah.
everything is wet and it's gloomy and it's you want spring to come, you want the summer, you don't have the
Yeah.
beautiful snow. It's just un- uncomfortable. And I've
Yeah.
always wanted to move past March, like move past that time. But I've found that those times of year, which we're in February,
Yeah.
March, these
Yeah.
are actually really useful times to look inward. And so I wanted it to be taken in that moment of transition. Um, yeah, so
Yeah. Very good. Obviously, as you mentioned, kind of West Side Story, you kind of just kind of got going. And I guess obviously performing sometimes can have that kind of negative kind of sometimes when you're a performer, kind of that hit. But kind of does that made you again kind of grow up, kind of that experience, kind of getting to start the show, making your Broadway debut, then kind of like suddenly the tracks to kind of stop cutting.
yes, I mean, it was West Side Story has been a big part of my life. It was my very first job at a summer stock theater upstate New York, and it meant a lot for me to do that show. And of course, making my Broadway debut was a dream come
Mm-hmm.
true. And I luckily
Yeah.
got to go on January right before the shutdown. And of course, it was really challenging to go from this is something I've worked toward, and Stand Tall kind of gets to that idea of dream big and go for it. Something my dad had on our fridge growing up: go confidently in the direction of your dreams, live the life you imagine. That whole thing, and yes, it was very challenging to say, okay, now what? And
Yeah.
now the theaters are all dark. What do I do? Who am I
Yeah.
without being able to perform or at least be, auditioning or in my craft and my art? Like who that was tough.
Yeah.
Sitting, waking up every day not knowing what was going to happen, which is another reason why I think the album really helped me. It was quite therapeutic because I was able to work on my own art and sing and have a rehearsal process,
Yeah.
even with myself and one other person. And it was very intense because West Side Story was, this huge production at the Broadway Theater, and it was getting a lot of buzz, and then boom,
Yeah.
it was all gone. So I definitely think that that whole experience also informs the album. And having come off of, okay, you got the dream checked off,
Yeah.
right? You wrote down Broadway, I want to be on Broadway, and that happened. Now what?
Yeah.
And now how do we move forward? How do we understand, the process of like why was that the thing I wanted to do? You just have the time to really analyze. That's something that I think as challenging as COVID was, I think it did give us all time to just understand, as uncomfortable as that might have been.
Yeah. Obviously, you've mentioned it was all kind of done over Zoom. How difficult was that kind of? I know, like, there's probably sometimes like a sound delay and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, it was well, we used a program, Listen To, I think it was like Audio Movers Listen To. It was basically where Alex was able to play and there wasn't latency
Mm.
issues, which that was great. And I mean, this process took us a few months
Yeah.
because I was there every step of the way as he was arranging it, saying, "Oh, I don't like that chord. How about this?" Or I don't know what. I was trying to communicate with him, and then he brilliantly played.
Yeah,
And from every note, every transition, every break, how long, every breath, we were able to really work it out together and have conversations about it and make every choice intentional, which felt exciting. And to work with a collaborator like that is, rare and was exhilarating. And but it was funny because, I couldn't sing. He couldn't hear me sing to it. I would have to listen, mute my,
yeah,
him mute me. I would sing along, see how the key felt, um, all of that. But, it was surprisingly, we got used to it and
yeah,
we managed. And I recorded my vocals at a friend's house in his office, and they mixed and mastered all of it. And again, we were constantly back and forth on what do we want it to sound like and what the reverb should be. And I was learning all of this terminology as we
yeah,
went because when I pitched him the idea, I said, I have no idea how to do this. I don't even know if this is possible, but will
yeah,
you go on this journey with me? Because this is something I really feel I need to do. And thank God he said yes.
yeah. Brilliant. I have some quick fire questions. You can up to you if you want to answer them quick. Some of them are going to challenge you because
Oh,
you challenge everyone that I've asked. So, what was the first piece of theatre that you remember seeing?
I can't remember the name, but I remember it was like a 42nd Street style show.
Yeah,
And I remember it had star curtains. And I turned, again, I don't remember if it was my mom or my dad. And I was like, I want to do that. I want to be in a star show. And
yeah,
that's what I probably was like 5. And I just remember the energy of, they're in like a New York City tap dance thing. And I just was so taken by it. I just thought it was unreal. But as far as like one of the names I remember, like a spectacle type show, I went to go see Wicked, and I
mhm,
just was obsessed. I love The Wizard of
yeah,
Oz, and then
yeah.
just that score and the set and it, yeah. So Star Show and then Wicked.
Good. Yeah. What would be kind of, if I had to pick a number one, your favorite piece of theatre that you've ever seen? Yeah.
Um, Yeah, that's really hard. I'm gonna say, which I already had mentioned, just because it's so on the top of my head, Hadestown for a play, a musical. It just, I wept the whole show. I think it
Mhm.
is absolutely brilliant. I think it is poetry. I think it's what we need. I it's such a stunning production. Um, I also got to see Romeo and Juliet in London, and
Yeah.
um, that was, oh my gosh, when was that? That was a few years ago, and I remember that production was one of the best things I had seen. Just I hadn't seen a lot on the West End before, and it just was, yeah, it was at the Kenneth Branagh Theater, I think, and or the
Yeah.
theater company, and yeah, yeah, that's so hard. I know, I'm like, oh
That
my
is
gosh,
hard.
there's so many things, but
That is a difficult one. They only get harder, don't worry.
oh gosh, okay.
This doesn't have to be theatre related. It can be anything. But what would be one thing on your bucket list?
On my bucket list. Yeah, that's I mean, theater related. I mean, of course, I someday I would love to sing at Carnegie Hall. That's one of the
Yeah.
things that everyone says. But I want to say, and it's not necessarily, I have a big list of places. I love to travel, and I have lists that I constantly am changing the places that are the
Yeah.
priorities to go back to or to go to. And I mean, off the top, like I've always wanted to go to Vietnam, or I've wanted to go to Santorini in Greece, or to Africa. And I mean, I know that's It's like so many things on a bucket list. But yeah, it's really hard to narrow down. But I think just continue to travel abroad. I think that that's one of my favorite things to do. And like I said, it's always changing of where I want to go. But yes, I also hope to sing at Carnegie Hall someday. That would be great.
You'll have to do like one of these like Netflix shows where they go around like a camper van and like travel the world and sing everywhere. That's what you have to do.
Yes, I would love that. I mean, please call me.
There you
I'm
go,
down
Netflix. If
to
Netflix
go
are
wherever.
watching, there you go.
Yes, please.
Here's a difficult question though. This can be any genre, but top three albums.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Top three albums. Okay. Um, Big Red Machine's People. I love Justin Vernon. I think that, and Bon Iver, but this is Big Red Machine, not Bon Iver. And I just, stunning. Um, what it is, oh my gosh, the name of her, it's Barbara Streisand's, oh my gosh, the name of the album, it's like the Broadway album. I think it's like has Ladies Who Lunch on it and Being Alive.
Yeah.
Um, oh my gosh, this is so hard.
Hello.
um, uh, mm, mm. You know, and Stand Tall is off of this album. There's
Yeah.
so many
So
that I
many.
can't, but I'm just telling you, like, okay, this just came to my head. I
Yes.
love the Wake My Love album by Childish Gambino. That is such a brilliant work, and Stand Tall is off of that album. And yeah, I think that it's incredible and both beautiful, but lyrically and yeah. Oh, yeah, these are hard. And I'm always bad at picking things. I'm the most indecisive person. So I'm always like, don't quote me, but
Okay. Well, we won't force you, but everyone's answer is obviously going to be growing up in a couple of weeks when it comes out. See,
naturally,
of
naturally.
course. This don't get easier. If you could duet with anyone, dead or alive, who would you duet with?
Uh, I have like five people I can think of right off the top of my head.
You can list them
Um,
if you want. You can go.
I I would be so like bowing down, but Ella Fitzgerald is just
Yeah.
her album, all of her albums should be on my top.
Yeah.
Again,
Yeah.
yeah, there's I feel like anything she touches is
Yeah.
gold.
Yeah.
Ella Fitzgerald. Um, I always loved Michael Bublé growing up, and I always was like, I want to be like the female Michael Bublé. Why can't there, I want to
Mhm.
sing all of those jazz standards and travel the world. Um, Oh gosh. I forgive me if I mispronounce it, but Vittorio Grigolo, the opera singer, he has, I think, one of the most stunning voices. I would love to sing with him. And Josh Groban.
Yeah. Classics.
Yeah, classics. I love the classics.
Yeah.
I'm definitely a sucker for the classics.
Likewise. This you're gonna not gonna like this question. You can
You
invite.
keep saying this, I'm just really not gonna like it.
You can invite three guests over for dinner. Again, dead or alive. Who is going to come?
Well, the first person who I thought was Audra McDonald, because again, love Audra McDonald. She is one of my, you know, greatest idols, and I think she's such an incredible artist. Um, oh my gosh. Let's see. Audra McDonald. I'm sweating.
Yeah.
Like, there's this is okay, this is gonna be maybe corny, but to fill the other two spots. I don't know how this dinner would go, but I I would love to meet my grandmother and my grandfather that I never got to meet. So they'd have to meet Audra McDonald. But you know, I they both passed before I was born, and every year we have a Christmas tradition that we put up their photos on on the table, and we always acknowledge who's not with us. And I see them every year, and I always wish I could talk to them and get to know who they are. And they seemed like such incredible people who had, my grandmother, they left Cuba in what was that, the late 50s, early 60s. And then my grandfather had, fled, like during World War II, came to this country and fled Poland. And so it's just, they have such powerful immigrant stories and experiences. And then of course, just knowing who they were. So yeah, I'm gonna have to say those three.
That is a good answer. You see, nobody's said that yet. Nobody's gone family yet. So that is a brilliant answer there.
We're all coming back to the growing up, coming back to the family circle, the roots.
You've done well. You've done a good answer there. Again, tough question. If you could adapt a movie or book that hasn't been adapted into a play/musical, depending how you want to go over it, what would you choose?
I'm sure there's a million of them, but I cannot believe that Moonstruck isn't on stage. Obviously written by playwright, but I just was like, I feel that it just is such a, again, the themes being family, like this family drama culture. It's operatic in how it's performed, and I just love that film. I think it's amazing, and I think it's hysterical and heartwarming and just true. I don't know. I have family that act like that, and everything is, the stakes are always super high. So yeah, I think I would love to see a play or a musical version of Moonstruck. I think that would be great.
Very good. And what would be, again, this is a cheesy question now, dream role?
Dream role. Again, this is hard because it was always Eliza Doolittle.
Yeah.
And I got to play her. And that felt like, wow, okay. I was like, can I play her again?
Yeah.
Dream role. Yeah, this one's hard because I would love to, of course, I'm sure you get a lot of answers of, I want to do something that's never been done before, but it's true. I would love to do the next thing.
Yeah, of course.
But I know I should be so much faster with these. It would be really fun. This is not necessarily the biggest dream role, but I would love to be Maria in The Sound of Music. I love Rodgers and Hammerstein. I think it's a beautiful story and great music. Again, classics.
Yeah. Outgrown.
Anything Sondheim as well. Anything Sondheim. Baker's Wife, Into the Woods, or Joanna Sweeney Todd, or Someday Dot. Love. All of those brilliant characters. Yeah.
Very good.
You asked for one thing, I give you lists. This is what just keeps happening.
That's all good. It's all good. I guess this is a sub-sorry question from what you've just said though. Does it as a performer, does it change when you've done, say, a role that's been your dream? Like you say, you've ticked off the Broadway. Obviously, I know you're hopefully going to go back to Broadway, but does it change? Because when you've done a goal, how do you then keep motivated, I suppose, to keep going, I suppose?
Right. I think it always comes back down to, and I think it's important for anyone to think, okay, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
This wild career path. Sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, Mia, what's the matter with you? But I think you have to come to why, no matter if you get the job, if you don't get the job, if the biggest job ever happens, it has to be something bigger and
Yeah.
uh, more have more of a purpose than just that one singular thing. Because yeah, if all you want to do is be on Broadway, once you get on Broadway, you're like, okay,
Oh,
great, sick.
yeah, I've done it. Yeah.
I've done it. But there's something to me about I think when I realized how much theater has the power to build a bridge of empathy between people, is there really something in my mind that can be more valuable to humanity than doing that in whatever way that is, however,
Yeah.
people are able to do that through their artistry. But for me, theater is, I mean, come on, we all sit in one room, our heartbeats sync as they've found, and
Yes.
you see that performance and you'll never get it back. It'll be in your memory forever, and that's how it lives on. And I think you can be impacted in a way that's different than anything else. So it's to say that I think it's interesting because I had, Maria in West Side Story was, when I was younger, I always wanted to play her. And now I've played her, I think, 5 or 6 times.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I've gotten that opportunity and I've loved it and I'm ready for the next challenge. I think we need challenge as human beings. I think we need to constantly evolve and test ourselves. So yeah, I think there are roles that I'll think, oh, this is going to be the big challenge and this is something that's going to help me grow, and it does. And then
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
And then grow and grow. And sometimes what I've found, which is why sometimes I'm like, I don't even know, because there are parts that I've played that I never thought I would play or that I
Of
would be
course.
terrified to play. And sometimes it's become my favorite experiences I've had. And so I think I'm just excited at what's to come and to be open to it and just try to not have myself get in my own way,
Yeah.
which is a lot of it. But yeah, I think it's like, okay, great. Now I've done that. I'm just excited for the next thing. And the goal is to always do something that really impacts people, it's, and that, is, um, really of value. And obviously there's so many wonderful pieces to do. So it's always
Yeah.
a challenge.
This is like a side story, but I had a good one yesterday because I went to see Phantom the Opera yesterday in London. But it was the last show I saw musical wise before lockdown, because it started a UK tour, but that obviously got cancelled. And it had
Mhm.
the same three leads in it. It was quite like a strange moment. It's like an audience member, because it's like going that full
Whoa.
circle from like those 2 years almost, and it's got the same people in it, and you can like kind of that journey that what we've all been on. It's kind of like crazy how it's all happened, but
Well,
that
that you're able to be in a position where you can clock
yeah,
exactly the time ahead and to, yeah, view these humans and think, what was their
yeah,
experience like? And we all know every single human around us has been affected, and that's been
yeah,
a very unique situation. And it's, again, it's been different for everyone, but everyone's had an experience with it. When you said Phantom of the Opera, that is actually the show that made me want to pursue, like, made me want to sing, like,
yeah,
really seriously. And it really was just because there was a woman with brown curly hair who sang like an angel, and I
yeah,
was like, oh my gosh, I want to do that. And so then I would sing songs from that show and record them and play them back and try to, that was like my early voice lesson, was
yeah,
trying to match what the recording sounded like. So Sarah Brightman has been played over and over and over and over on my iPod back in the day.
yeah, yeah. Very good. No, there you go. That can be another dream role. There you go. I'll add that to the list. There you go.
Yes.
That'd be good. But going back to the questions, because we're just chatting there. uh, what would be one piece of advice you'd give your younger self?
It's, yeah. I would say it goes off of what I kind of had said earlier, which is to really encourage her to be to be herself. I know
Mhm.
it's like the most cliche thing you could possibly say, but there's so many voices around you telling you who to be, how to act, how to sound, how to behave, and how to think.
Yeah.
And that her instincts and to follow her gut and to follow what makes sense or do what is right. And even if it's not going to be the popular thing in the room, even if it's scary, and I think that's something I'm still telling myself.
Yeah.
I'm telling, adult Mia, I say like my little Mia, my adult Mia, my future Mia. I think that it's just so hard, especially now we're constantly bombarded with what we need to be. And we lose out on, we get this one life to be us, and we
Yeah.
get to share what comes from us. So putting on all these, to not have to, yeah, to be authentic and to be herself.
Very
Yeah.
good. You'll be relieved to know this is the final question is an easier question.
Oh, good.
Basically, the big sell moment for you. Why should anyone check out Growing Up?
I think that, especially right now, but I think it's applicable anytime. I want to be a voice in your ear that is along with you on your journey through your transitions, and reminding you that, even if it's not on a sunny day, or um, things are things are beautiful, exciting, challenging, all of the different mixes. I said it's not a summer bop. It's
Yeah.
definitely a time to, it's great car music, train music.
Yeah.
It's great for a moment to reflect and for me to be there with you, and to refer back to. And because this album, if you think about the characters in the album, it's mother, father, and love,
Yeah.
like a romantic love. Um, it could obviously be other things, but those are the main. And then of course the the singer who's
Yeah.
another character. But every single person can relate to that. And
Yeah.
that's what I think is really special about these songs, is that I know that they were intended for different reasons and sung by completely different people than me, but they affected me so much that I needed to sing them and have, do my own spin on them. So I want everyone to know that you're going to relate to it in some way. And I I want to be in your ear with you as you listen to it, experience it, what comes up for you. It gives you peace. Um, Also, the songs are just great and they're
Yeah.
beautiful,
Yeah.
and they're brilliantly written. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah. The two words I wrote down to be fair were calming and comforting. So
Hmm.
that's what I kind of got away from it. And it's just like like you say, it's a good, like nice, like good listen that I kind of like got lost in this morning. Kind of like it was really nice. It's like set me up for the day to be fair. And that kind of like, yes, it's really good. So thoroughly recommend Growing Up. It's coming
Thank
out on
you.
March 15th on all digital platforms. And Mia, thank you very much for your time today. You've been amazing to chat to. I wish you all the luck with the album. It's going to do well, hopefully in the States, and hopefully all my British people get on it. Get on it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This has been amazing to talk to you and connect.